program will begin shortly. Launch sequence. Activate. Warning, the following content is not politically correct. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back to the channel today, everyone. I'm Sarah Higdon. This is Transform to Freedom. And we are here. This is the first episode of March, which you know that means we are in Women's History Month, which also means that the crazies have started making us look bad again, like always. Is there not a month that like women can just have to themselves, like not trans people involved? Like, I don't understand this. So just kind of jumping into the stories that we have today. I saw this on online and just here. Like P-Flag, I don't even know where that's at. The P-Flag, their organization says, Happy Women's History Month. An evergreen reminder as we begin Women's History Month that trans women are women and true feminism depends on intersectionality, fighting to dismantle all systems of oppression that arise, form, and weaponize patriarchal violence. We want to start this month by acknowledging the cruelty of our times, which seeks to erase mention of our trans women who have always existed. Trans women are our kids, siblings, college friends, loved ones, and part of our community. You are not alone. We are fighting for you. Y'all. No. Like, listen, trans women don't need to be included in Women's History Month because trans women would be males who by definition don't fit with Women's History Month. As I've said before multiple times on this show and on other shows, trans women are a subsection of male or a subsection of men because man is defined by adult human male. That's the only thing that defines man. So women deserve their month. And if we want to, we have like days for trans people. We have like 4 days of trans people. We have Pride Month. Like every single month, it seems like trans people can celebrate if you look at it through the lens of intersectionality. But that's the problem, is intersectionality is not what we're looking for. Intersectionality is not like, when you start to look at what intersectionality means, it means combining multiple areas of identity to basically help your cause, to grow your cause to be, one human world where there is no difference. And it's intersectionality in and of itself is a postmodernist concept. Yeah, exactly. Can they please not fight for us? It ain't helping. No. Like, and this is the thing, is like, I don't know. I don't know who's running these organizations. I don't know if at this point places like P-Flag and HRT and like those organizations are probably all mostly run by trans-identified people, probably mostly non-binary people at this point, not transsexuals. Well, some, yeah. Actually, this is my thing. Transsexuals. I'm starting to see just how like even overtaken most of the transsexual community has been with woke ideology. It's like a brainwashing that's happening to these people when they get into these spaces. And so they believe this stuff. But no, like trans women is erasing women's history. If you really, really want to dig down into it, trans women are erasing women's history. So, PFLAG, you don't have to include trans people. And just the point that they had, like, they made this post to make this post and then not acknowledge that a lot of like the phobia, I don't know, the phobia that lesbians get. Is that what it would be called? It would be called a phobia, right? It's not really it's kind of like it's the homophobia that lesbians get because they don't want to date somebody with a penis. I don't understand it. It's sexuality is a thing. Like no, trans women history. If you want to have like a trans women history day, I don't care. I don't care. But don't try to erase biological women. Don't try to erase females because you want to feel included because you're ashamed that you were born male, because that's what it comes down to, right? If you can't accept your biological reality, it really comes down to the fact that you're ashamed of it. And it's interesting that they call me the self-hating one, even though I understand my background, my history, that I will never be a female, which means I will never be a woman. But that's okay. I'm okay with who I am. These people aren't. So it's really interesting to see, yeah, PFLAG and other organizations celebrating women's history and always have to make trans women the center of their campaigns. They're making trans women, that's what they're doing. They're making trans women the center of their campaign rather than making lesbians the center of their campaign, which they should be doing. Like it should be lesbians that are out in front. And because if you really want to think about trans women history, or not trans women history, but just women's history, it would be history of trans men, actually. So why not celebrate the trans men out there instead of the trans women? Because it ruins their narrative. If you can't define a woman without using the term woman within it, then it ruins their narrative. And it's not about feelings. It's not about how you feel about yourself. Being a woman is biological. And so PFLAG, you're not doing us any good. You're not doing us any good. Can you just like stop with this? Because it doesn't help. This is the whole reason why I made that video as to why I'm considering myself post-trans, right? Because I don't identify with these people and what their cause is. And these, like, it doesn't matter how many times I say that trans women are a subsection of men. I always seem to get attacked as if I'm saying the opposite. And it's because of who I am, I will automatically get associated with this nonsense. Leave it alone. I don't need to be included in Women's History Month. Okay, I'm not a woman. I don't need to be included. We don't need to be inclusive of everybody at all times. Like, this is like last month was Black History Month, right? And they're like, Black trans women started. No, it's like Black trans women, all trans women. Then Pride is all trans everything plus drag queens and all the homosexuality stuff. Pride Month needs to go though. I'm kind of done with that too. So if you know that. That's a different topic. But I mean, look at what's going on. Like, they want to. This is why this is so important. So, and this is why it's so important that we step up and fight against the ideology that says this, right? And it's because that finally it's females are now unfortunately having to stand up and fight for their own athletic competitions and their own rights, their own awards, which they got through Title IX. But the thing is so like this, in a race in New York, the trans athlete, who was this? So Sadie Schreiner. So I remember writing about Sadie was a high school athlete last year in California. I remember writing about it when I was with the Post Millennial. But yeah, actually, Grasshopper, you're right. Too much inclusivity means meanings are lost. So yeah, it's like, it's one of those things, like, we joke about it. It's like when they call everybody racist or homophobic, but like at some point when everybody's racist, then nobody's racist. Like, you understand how that works? Like, that's what it is. It's like they overuse words, and so inclusivity can be fine, but too much of it is like, no, we don't. We need definitions. We need to separate. But the postmodernist view is to have no such thing as absolutes, right? So there's no absolute, then it's none of it, and then it's all inclusive. But so Sadie was a runner in California, I believe, last year. Won high school track meets and stuff like this. Was competing at the Field Open Master Champions in New York, ended up running alone because both of the other teens, the 16 and 17-year-olds that were going to compete with Sadie, decided not to compete because there was a male competing with them. And good for them. This sucks that these girls had to do this, because it should be the adults in the room that are standing up for this. But this is what it's going to take to change this, and things are changing. Women are standing up, and they're saying, no, we're not going to do it. If we're going to do this, we're going to protest vote. So Sadie won a race that competed against nobody. Good for you. Does that feel good? You're 21 years old competing against 15 and 16-year-olds. But again, this is what we talk about. Like, this is why we need to change the culture. We need to change the culture where this is okay. And I think that when you start to see now, even 80% of the country, and this is up from a couple of years ago, like 80% of the country does not believe that males should be competing in female sports. This does nothing but harm actual transsexual people. Like, allowing this to happen literally just makes all of us put into that box of, oh, you think that's okay? No, I don't think this is okay. I truly do not. I've never have. Since I've been doing content, some of my biggest content from the very beginning has been fighting against this stuff. But I'll tell you, like, this is what it's going to take. Now, we need to change, and then the reason why I go into we need to change the culture is because a lot of people are saying, well, there are some people that are like, well, how is this even allowed? Isn't this illegal under Title IX and the Trump EO? I thought this was banned and all this. No. This is the problem. Like, this is the way that our system works. the government and Trump's EOs only discuss Title IX. Title IX only regulates high school, like so state-sponsored athletics, so high school athletic associations, and university athletic associations, which also means like the NCAA, like those sports and everything. And we already know the issues with the NCAA's, even their new ruling about using birth certificates and everything like that. We talked about that a few weeks ago. So this was a club sport, a private race, and so Sadie was allowed to run because it's a private organization and they make the rules. What's really interesting is USA Athletics basically sets the rules for most like track and field events, does not allow males to compete in female sports, but yet this organization decided to not abide by the USA Athletic ruling, and they decided to let a trans person run. See, Lizzie says, even if they weren't trans, why is an adult competing with teenagers? So that's like I said, I don't know exactly how this. It's a I believe this is actually a qualifier to make the USA running team, but it was the USA Track and Field Open Masters Championship. The women's 400-meter dash. So the teenagers were stepping up in class to run outside of normal competition. So that it wasn't like a high school thing. But yeah, so Sadie beat 5 teenagers ranging in age from 14 to 18 en route to victory. USA TF policy allows men to compete in women's category using the justification that they are in compliance with International Olympic Committee rules, which is true. But no. Actually, the IOC rules are that they leave it up to the individual sports bodies rules. So like USA Olympic, like track and field, International Track and Field is not governed by US International Olympic Committee, where the U.S. International Olympic Committee has deferred to, forget what organization it is off the top of my head, but they've deferred to the international governing body of, it's International Athletics, I think, is what it is. So I don't know. The organization said that certain medical benchmarks must be achieved before an athlete can compete as the opposite gender for medals or prizes. So, yeah, Sadie's out here breaking records in universities, and hopefully not for very much longer, because now that is Title IX connected. I don't. Yeah, World Athletics Association. There you go. Thank you, Seasalt. Yeah, World Athletics. Pretty sure they banned it. Last I saw, but I don't know. You know, the thing is, this is what needs to happen. We need to like continuously call this out for what it is. Obviously, like the Trump administration's ruling, even, and this is the next story too, is like even the states are willing to lose school funding to allow trans athletes to compete. So males to compete in female sports. States are willing to lose federal funding to allow this. So like the state of Washington. And now I don't know if these states are pushing right now to get through this year before they enact these rules. I doubt it. I think that they're just going to push. They're going to say whatever, we're not going to kick these trans athletes off of their teams. So like Washington State. But thankfully Washington State banned males from female sports after 15-year-old refuses to play basketball against a team with transport. So even in Washington, so Washington is obviously one of these liberal states that is going to ignore. We talked about Maine last week. California still has trans people competing in female sports. So we've talked about these states, but they're willing to lose federal funding to after with violating Trump's rules, the title, and literally just violating Title IX in general, right? So that's what it is. I mean, you're violating Title IX in general. But yeah. And then there's another story in the news. Sadie has found a workaround, compete as an independent events that are not run and associated by the NCAA. Yeah, I mean it's not a workaround. I mean you can't obviously Sadie can't run in university and receive a scholarship, but that's the only thing that can be. That's the only thing that the government can actually connect with. Now, this is why every single sports body still need to have the pressure put on them, because otherwise this stuff is going to continuously happen. And that's why we need to change the overall culture. Now, the culture has shifted, and this is a problem, is like the culture has shifted, like I said, where there's like 80% of the population doesn't agree that males should be competing in female sports. Yet for some reason, these sports bodies and these politicians on the left think that it's okay, like that it's a winning position to have males competing in female sports. I just, it's not a winning position, and it doesn't help trans people. It hurts the acceptance of trans people. That's what it does. It hurts the acceptance of trans people. So I don't know. There was a story that came out this week too, and I wanted to just discuss it real quick. It's not something so on March 1st, this story said there's a study that came out from the Oxford academic study, which says transgender surgery is associated with increased risk of suicidal ideations. Now, okay. I've heard this for a very long time. We all kind of know that this study's out there. Now, I'm going to put a little bit different spin on this, though, too. And I've known this. And one of the reasons, so I think there's a couple of reasons why this might be the case. I've heard this for a very long time, that after you have bottom surgery, suicidality actually goes up. And why is that? I think that there's this pedestal, right? If you are so worried about passing and you are so dysphoric, sometimes I think that if you're so dysphoric, well, yeah, aftercare sucks. You're right, sea salt, but that could be. But I think if you're so dysphoric, like you keep doing these interventions and saying maybe, and it might not even, and honestly, it might not even be the dysphoria, but you keep going on these interventions and you say, this is going to be the one. This is going to be the one. Once I get this one, everything's going to be better. Like I am going to be, it's going to make me something that I'm not. Like, right? It's going to make you a woman, or it's going to make you a man, or anything like that. And the reality is it's not. Like none of these stuff is a magic cure. And so one of the reasons why when you go through all these surgeries, why this would increase is because once you find out that none of it's a magic cure, because you've been propped up to think that, hey, once you get this, it's going to be good. And once you get this, it's going to be even better. Once you realize that life doesn't really change that much, you just feel a little bit more comfortable with yourself. Like you don't look in the mirror and hate different parts of yourself, but you didn't change your sex. I think once you get to the point of having all the surgeries and you get to that end point, you go, what did this change? And I think it really comes down to you still have to be comfortable with your own self, and surgery is not going to make yourself more comfortable, if you know what I mean. So I think that people get to this end state and they think that they're going to just completely pass as the opposite sex, and you're not. Like, surgery is not magical. And so I can imagine that there is an increased risk of this stuff if you are not grounded. I always tell people, I tell people this all the time. Like, when I've been in speaking events, I said transition's not easy. Hormones do some crazy things to your mind that you're not used to, and it takes a little bit to get used to that stuff, but it's not an easy process. You're not choosing to live an easy life. For me, it was right, and I feel more comfortable being out and open in who I am. But I also did the work beforehand to be like, is this what I need? You know, like, working through it properly is what's needed. And I don't think that the mental health industry is geared and ready to actually do the work with their patients right now. We've talked about my issues with the mental health industry for a very long time, but I think you have to be very stable, understand that there is no cure for this, and that this stuff is what makes you just kind of live life a little bit more comfortable and more authentic to you. Okay. And if that's what it is, and if it really is authentic to you, then this won't be the case, because you will have already done the work beforehand to understand that it's not a magic bullet. It's not a magic cure. It's not a magic pill that's going to solve everything. I think that's what a lot of people go into it thinking. And they get stuck in this, I'm going to have another surgery. I'm going to have another surgery. I'm going to have another surgery. And then they get misgendered and they're going, what did I have all these surgeries for? Now I'm depressed again. Yeah, I don't think so. Like, that's where I think that people are set up. I think a lot of the people that go into this are set up for failure because they're sold a bill of goods by their medical professionals. I don't think people are telling them the hard truths that it's not a magic cure, but it is right for some people, but not right for everybody. But I do think, honestly, I don't think that these numbers would change that much if we told these people that they could not transition, they cannot try to transition. If we told them that, I still don't. I think that these numbers would be the same overall numbers. The people that you were told that they're not allowed to transition would still be having these feelings. But because there is no option for them. Okay, so I think that's the case. Oh, and I do want to. Okay, so Wargamer 2199 says, did you see the Texas House Bill 3399 that was proposed to end adult transition? Yes, I did. I disagree with the bill. Okay. Here's the thing. I actually did my research on this bill. I read it because it was sent to me, and I said, well, shoot, yeah, that does actually take away choices from adults. That would actually ban transition. It would ban everything. I even sent it to some people that live in Texas, right? And said, hey, what's going on here? I reached out to my friends who are lobbyists out in Texas and said, what's going on with this? Just give me, what can you give me? First of all, it's not, I don't even think it's even going to get brought up into committee. They told me there's already been 10,000 pieces of legislation that have been filed in the state of Texas this year. Just FYI, 10,000 pieces of legislation this year, and they're only through half of them, and only one bill's made it to the floor. That's the odds that we're dealing with here. Okay. They also told me that no, there's really not an audience to push this. I learned some stuff about the legislator who proposed it. Not gonna cite this on air, but I learned some stuff there. But yeah, I'm told that there is no real appetite to push it even further. So I doubt that it even makes it to committee. And if it does, I doubt that it even makes it out of committee. Because here's the thing: is most people know, and the person I talked to even said this too, is they should know better. That, I mean, especially as he's a lawyer, the lawmaker is a lawyer. So they should know that you can adjust, like, there needs to be reasonable scrutiny to take away a parent's rights to transition their child. And there is in these instances. However, you have to have a strict scrutiny to pass the mustard on the 14th Amendment. What's really interesting about this, it would not, I don't even think it would get brought up to the Supreme Court in a 14th Amendment case. I think it would get shot down by the Supreme Court in a 14th Amendment case for a lot of reasons. And I actually asked AI this too, because I wanted to see what it came up with to see if I was thinking right about it. And I was. So it broke it down to legal terms though, right? In order to be able to tell an adult they don't have bodily autonomy to do what they want with their body, it needs to pass strict scrutiny under the law, under the 14th Amendment, to understand why they would actually have to, why they would have the authority to tell an adult what they can or cannot do with their own body. And why they would have the right to even know a person's medical background, right? So that would be the case, is to know what a person's medical background is. AI told me that this type of bill, and I actually literally just dropped the entire bill into the system and said, would this pass the 14th Amendment under the medical privacy clause? There's not really a medical privacy clause, but there is precedent. And it said it would be hard to even pass the basic scrutiny into where you would need strict scrutiny. So even if it passed in Texas, it's very unlikely that it would hold up in the courts. Even with the Supreme Court that we have right now, it would probably wouldn't hold up. And it would be interesting to see, because the Roe v. Wade precedent would still hold in this case. So the Roe v. Wade was overturned because it was determined that a baby, it's not the right to your own bodily autonomy, but it's the right that a baby is a life. And so it's up to the states to determine when that life begins, and when, up to what point it's considered a life, because once it becomes a life, then it would be considered a murder if you kill that child. And so when you're looking at it in the terms of this bill that would ban medical transition for adults, there's no second life that you're taking into account. So the Roe v. Wade statute would still actually probably stand in this regard, because there is no viable reason as to why they would be allowed to tell a full-grown adult what they can or cannot do with their bodies. Yeah, grasshopper. Yeah, FTM surgery is gruesome. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know why. I don't necessarily even know what the point is. And it's always been told to me that it's not if you have complications, it's when you have complications. The male and female, if you're an adult, it's a lot different process. And if you're a minor, there's a lot of complications. That if you were a minor when you started transitioning if you were a minor when you start taking hormones, and especially if you were placed on puberty blockers, that creates a whole lot of other issues. But if you were an adult before you did it, it's a much more standard practice surgery that makes sense. So yeah, I don't understand though the idea of female to male surgeries. I don't get it. I understand male to female, but not the other way around. All right, let's go into the main topic of the night, it's funny we always get halfway through. Main topic of the night is Ukraine. If you watched this last week, and you guys know my stance. I'm a anti-interventionalist, especially when it comes to this. I don't think we should be paying for any stuff, and I do want to negotiate peace in the region, which is what I believe Donald Trump wants to do. And I don't think, actually, stop this real quick. I don't think, and it's really interesting to watch this because it does look like Zelenskyy wants to keep going on this gravy train of the U.S. Paying for the war instead of wanting to actually get peace in the region. So I think he thinks he was dealing with the Biden administration last week when he was in the Oval Office and raised issue with JD Vance. I honestly looked like a perpetual toddler. Basically saying no, ceasefires are no good. Like, what do you mean? Ceasefire is the first thing to do to start peace. We need a ceasefire so we can negotiate. And so yeah, I think this was interesting to watch though. Here we go.
This thing over with. You see the hatred he's got for Putin. It's very tough for me to make a deal with that kind of hate. He's got tremendous hatred. And I understand that, but I can tell you the other side isn't exactly in love with, him either. So it's not a question of alignment. I'm aligned with the world. I want to get the thing set. I'm aligned with Europe. I want to see if we can get this thing done. You want me to be tough? I could be tougher than any human being you've ever seen. I'd be so tough. But you're never going to get a deal that way. So that's the way it goes. All right, one more question.
Hey, I want to respond to this. So look, for 4 years in the United States of America, we had a president who stood up at press conferences and talked tough about Vladimir Putin, and then Putin invaded Ukraine and destroyed a significant chunk of the country. The path to peace and the path to prosperity is maybe engaging in diplomacy. We tried the pathway of Joe Biden of thumping our chest and pretending that the president of the United States' words mattered more than the president of the United States' actions. What makes America a good country is America engaging in diplomacy. That's what President Trump is doing.
Can I ask you?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So he occupied our big parts of Ukraine, parts of East and Crimea. So he occupied it on 2014. So during a lot of years, so I'm not speaking about just Biden, but those time was Obama, then President Obama, then President Trump, then President Biden, now President Trump, and God bless, now President Trump will stop him. But during 2014, nobody stopped him. He just occupied and took. He killed people. You know what the contact
2015.
2014.
2014 and 2014.
2014.
Yeah. So
I was not here.
Yeah, but
That's exactly right.
Yes, but during 2014 till 2022, the situation the same. The people have been dying on the contact line. Nobody stopped him. You know that we had conversations with him, a lot of conversation, my bilateral conversation, and we signed with him, me, like a new president. In 2019, I signed with him the deal. I signed with him, Macron and Merkel, we signed ceasefire. Ceasefire, all of them told me that he will never go. We signed him with gas contract. Yes, but after that, he broken this ceasefire. He killed our people, and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Count once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems, even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly what you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
You will feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
So that's the first one. I mean, yeah, he's this is what's really interesting is he doesn't want diplomacy. He can say that, but here's the thing: is no, he doesn't trust in the process because we've had poor leaders. He brings up Obama. It's interesting, right? Crimea gets taken during the Obama administration. Trump is in for 4 years, nothing happens. And then Putin invades the eastern part of Ukraine in during the Biden administration. And now Trump is coming in and trying to work peace to stop people from dying. Literally, I mean, I've talked about this before on here. When you really look back at the history, there's a clip online. I don't think I pulled it, but it's literally it's one of our former politicians or people in the government explaining back in 2014 how. And they didn't mention this part, but it's how the CIA backed the coup in Ukraine. Prior to that, it was a more pro-Russian president, and then there was a CIA-backed coup in Ukraine. And since that 2014 coup, there has been a civil war going on in the eastern Donbass region of the country because there's more pro-Russian forces over there. And so the main Ukrainian government has been shelling with artillery the eastern Donbass region. It's Ukraine's an interesting country because most people don't realize there's Russians with people with Russian passports living in Ukraine just from the old days. You know, if I'm not mistaken, the last ceasefire deal, like the peace deal that Putin had offered, was for Russia to take control over that eastern Donbass region to stop the civil war. Now, I'm not saying Putin's a good guy or anything like that. He's clearly not, but I don't think that there are good people on either side of this because obviously Zelenskyy doesn't want peace. He wants the U.S. to continue. And honestly, he wants the U.S. to send soldiers. He wants us to fight his war for him. Like he's saying right here, the same thing he said on other occasions. You will feel this. You will. No. We're not going to feel this. We're going to feel pretty good. We don't need to. We don't need to fight this war. You need us. We don't need you. And this whole thing was happening. So they want the administration is putting in place the system so that Russia won't want to invade again. Now, Ukraine being part of NATO is asking for World War III. But right now, the reason why Zelenskyy was there in the first place was, one, to beg for money, for more weapons and more money and everything like that. And secondly, he was there to negotiate a minerals deal so we could make different products and different we would be buying certain minerals that are used in gadgets and all this other stuff from them instead of China. This is a good deal because what that does is means that now the US will and the rest of the world will have a incentive to keep Ukraine safe, because our sovereignty, our minerals, the minerals that we'd be getting from them, would be tied to the country's sovereignty. Yeah, you're right. It's two dictators grifting off the death of their own people. I agree with that.
Maybe he did. I don't know what happened, but he didn't break him with me. He wants to make a deal. I don't know if you can make a deal. The problem is I've empowered you to be a tough guy. And I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States. And your people are very brave. But you're either going to make a deal or we're out. And if we're out, you'll fight it out. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but you'll fight it out. But you don't have the cards. But once we sign that deal, you're in a much better position. But you're not acting at all thankful. And that's not a nice thing. I'll be honest, that's not a nice thing. All right, I think we've seen enough. What do you think? Huh? This is going to be great television, I will say that. All right, we'll see what we can do about putting it together.
But yeah, so one, yes, talking about the way he dresses. I honestly don't care the way that Zelenskyy dresses. He's a commander in chief in war times, and I don't. It's like whatever. I think that's minuscule. Even Trump said, I think he's dressed nice. Whatever, He actually made a joke that he was wearing his nice clothes to come in when he arrived. But that's when he says you'll be in a much better position when you sign the deal, and that's the deal that Trump's talking about. He's not in the position to demand anything from us. Trump is negotiating and says that he wants peace, and the United States has allowed Zelenskyy to be a tough guy, but he doesn't have the military power. He doesn't have the military power to be a tough guy. It is interesting. Because I do think. Oh, so yeah, and then he said. Trump said that he doesn't think Zelenskyy wants peace if he can keep the U.S. support. Now, if you remember, when Trump was on the campaign trail, he said he would have this war done quickly. And the way he said he would do it, and it's playing out in front of you. The way he said he would do it is he would go to Ukraine and say, we're going to make a deal. We're going to have a ceasefire, and if you don't abide by that, then we're going to cut, basically we're going to cut you off from military supplies, just like he just said. We're going to cut you off. You guys can fight it out, but we're not going to be involved anymore. He said he would tell Putin, basically, if you don't go to a peace deal, we will show you a force that you've never seen before, right? It was like a fire and fury comment. That's what he said he would tell him. So he said we would back Ukraine more than ever if you don't make the deal. If you don't come to the table and talk. So basically it's telling both sides, hey, if you're willing to make the deal, we're with you. We're gonna make the deal. If you're not willing to make the deal, then we're either gonna pull out and let you guys do your thing, or we are going to help the other side. But yeah, Trump says Zelenskyy doesn't want peace if he can keep U.S. support. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, he wants to get out of this. He wants to win the war. He wants to win this fight, and he's losing. This is the problem, is he's losing, and unless we get involved even more than we already are, they're not going to win this fight. So this was this was obviously the big story over the full weekend. And yeah, he wants the bragging rights, and he doesn't want to lose any portions of his country. Look, you've been in a civil war for the last 10 years? Why don't we try something different here? But Trump says, because yeah, he was saying this statement was basically that this war with Russia is very, very far away. But there was a statement also that he said that U.S. would have to send their kids to war. And Trump says this is the worst statement he could have made by Zelenskyy. That could have been made by Zelenskyy, and America will not put up with it for much longer. It is what I was saying. This guy doesn't want there to be peace as long as he has America's backing. And Europe, in the meeting they had with Zelenskyy, stated flatly that they cannot do the job without the U.S. Probably not a great statement to have been made in terms of show strength against Russia. Yeah, that's the thing, is we pay more than any other NATO country. People are talking about getting out of NATO. We should not be in NATO. And if Ukraine becomes a country that is part of NATO, we should leave NATO. NATO was never supposed to push eastward past Germany, and now it's basically on Russia's border. That is literally that is aggression. Like we told when the Soviet Union broke up, we said NATO would not push eastward past Germany. That was in the early 1990s. Where is it now? It's like literally Ukraine is the only country stopping NATO from being on Russia's borders. That's why a lot of this is for, to give a buffer zone between NATO and Russia. Because I mean, think about it. If Russia, we know what happens when they put when they put missiles on the U.S. borders, right? So I mean, you've heard about the Cuban Missile Crisis. That was Russia putting rockets in our back door. It's not a good thing. We would strike too. We did strike. But it's interesting because then there's this other statement, and even this is the source of this. Even Jake Tapper is putting these types of statements out there, like, you know what, Zelenskyy is not in the right here. Like even Jake Tapper is saying this. He said, Jake Tapper put this out. One pro-Ukraine expert, normally supportive of Zelenskyy, offered me this perspective of the meeting in the Oval Office. Cautions that one pro-Ukraine expert, normally supportive of Zelenskyy, cautions that today's showdown should be seen in a clear-eyed way. Ukraine is losing this war. The expert says, Russia is making tens of thousands of drones per month, and Ukraine can't shoot them all down. Russia is making advances because Russia doesn't value human life and is okay to lose thousands of men a day. Ukraine can't keep up with that and shouldn't. There needs to be an end to this war, and there are only three ways out. One, America can send military weapons and manpower, and potentially this starts World War III. Which, in that meeting, they said you're flirting and trying to you're flirting with World War III and trying to get us involved in World War III. Two, Ukraine can surrender and give in to Putin. Or three, we give this ceasefire plan and deal that Trump is pushing a chance. I would go for option 3. Trump was talking about Ukraine getting land back that has lost just yesterday. Zelenskyy knew the position of the Trump administration ahead of time. Perhaps this meeting was a trap, but it's one that Zelenskyy could have easily avoided. Yeah. I mean, that all makes sense. Like, listen, I don't think it was a trap meeting. I guess if you watched the full 40 minutes, which I haven't watched the whole 40 minutes, but everybody's saying the whole 40 minutes was actually pretty good until that point where it seems like Zelenskyy wanted to start something with JD Vance. But I mean, there's 1,000 different perspectives on this, and everybody has a different one. I would agree that it doesn't seem like Zelenskyy is in a place where he wants to negotiate peace. And that's what Trump wants, is to negotiate peace. And he also doesn't seem to be very thankful that they're sending our money, the taxpayers' money, to their country. And they can't even account for all of it. But at the end of the day, I think we just need to I think we need to settle this. We need to negotiate peace. And I think Trump's doing the right thing to get us out of this. U.S., we don't want any more wars, no more conflicts, and our sons and daughters are not going to be there to fight for you. So Europe, you guys should be doing more to advocate for peace than we are, because as Zelenskyy said, we have a large ocean, yet we are the biggest provider to NATO. And I don't think that we need. That's the thing, is if we leave NATO, it could cause a lot of issues in the world if we left NATO. But we pay more than our fair share to the organization. But it is interesting that Zelenskyy agreed to sign the mineral deal just hours after getting kicked out of the meeting. We are ready to sign the agreement, and it will be the first step towards security guarantees. Because, like I said, now we have skin in the game, because then it affects our economy if they go into Ukraine. That's why he said you're in a much better deal, a much better place if you sign this deal. This is the deal that Trump was talking about him signing. A ceasefire without security guarantees is dangerous for Ukraine. But yeah. Last thing I want to bring up, I think this will be the last thing. Yeah. Budget bill. Thomas Massie is the only person with a spine in Congress. Yeah, I don't think did we talk about this last week? I don't think so. Like, wait, did we talk about this? No, we couldn't have talked about this. Yeah, I was like, we can't have talked about this. This was on Tuesday. No, so Thomas Massie came out of a meeting. New budget bill that they're proposing right now still adds $300 billion a year to the federal deficit. Over the next 10 years, we'll add $20 trillion to the U.S. deficit. And Thomas Massie is the only person with a spine that voted against it. And good for him. People are like, oh, you need to have these cuts. We could have these. You have the tax cuts. Yes, tax cuts are good, and they actually generally help to spark more revenue, but you still have to cut spending. You can't have $300 billion. And most people don't understand how this works. Now, I'm wondering exactly what this is, because the way that our budgeting system works, we have what's called baseline budgeting. And every year that baseline moves forward. And so most people don't realize, like, if we literally went to go pass a spending bill and we kept all the spending at the same levels as 2024. So say it would be considered a budget cut, because the automatic increases wouldn't actually wouldn't go into it. So it would be considered a spending cut. That's one of the biggest issues with how we do budgeting over this. But even still, on top of those automatic increases, they're going to spend $300 billion more per year. And Massey's right in this clip where he says, we've been sold this bill of goods plenty of times under different speakers, where they say, oh, this is going to be offset, and then this will, in the end it will be a cut. No, it never is. It never is. It never comes to fruition. Like, listen, this is what he said after he came out of a meeting about the budget.
Yeah. Can you just talk to us? Are you still a no? Is there anything?
They convinced me in there. I'm a no.
Is there anything?
Look let me their own numbers. If the Republican plan passes under the rosiest assumptions, which aren't even true, we're going to add $328 billion to the deficit this year. We're going to add $295 billion to the deficit the year after that, and $242 billion to the deficit after that, under the rosiest assumptions. Why would I vote for that?
So are you solidly a no?
Yeah, they convinced me. I was at lean no until this meeting. Now I'm a no.
This no confirmed.
This is a no.
Why? Why?
They're talking points. Look, these are not something I made up. This is the leadership's talking points. It adds $328 billion to the deficit. It adds $295 billion to the deficit the year after that. The only way they get to this magic thing where it's not going to kill our country is 5 years from now, they imagine that 2.5% growth accumulates, and that even right here they say they're going to cap discretionary spending. You think we're going to cap discretionary spending and then spend at the rate of inflation after that? That has never happened. So their assumptions are wrong. But even if you take their assumptions at face value, they told us in there they're going to increase the deficit in 2025 by $328 billion. And I've been here long enough. I've been here 12 years. So I've seen a 10-year plan or two come all the way to 10 years. Under Boehner, we had these 10-year plans. Under Ryan, we had these 10-year plans. Anything past the third year never happens.
Mr. Speaker, will the budget
Are you planning to move tonight?
Yeah, that's the plan. Yeah.
He's right. You got to remember, I saw this. This is what actually, a lot of this is what disenfranchised me from the Republican Party in the first place. I was in the early, 2010s. I was a big Tea Party supporter. I supported them because they were all about lowering the budgets and balancing the budget and stopping the spending. And we got a bunch of people voted into office that's what they ran on. And then they get in, and then they have these weird concoctions of bills, and they always increase spending. Like, even, and this is a criticism I have of Donald Trump's first administration, was that his tax cuts created record revenues. We had more money coming in because we had a very solid economy. We had more money coming in because the tax cuts, that's what happened. We had more people working than we so it's going to increase revenues. And the economy was booming. We still added $8 trillion to the deficit. And it looks like right now, and good thing is like the Doge staff are backing Massie in this. Like, Elon Musk is watching, is seeing these posts and going, interesting. That's not good. That's not good. So maybe he has the president's ear, but this is supposedly a Trump-backed bill. Hope it's not, but it did pass the House, and we'll see what happens in the Senate, but it should not pass. This is just going to disenfranchise people from the only party that actually seems to want to cut spending in the first place. But they don't. And Massie is the only person that is going to stand up for them, stand up against them, stand up to them. And he's going to take a lot of the heat rounds for that. And while I'm talking about Massie, and then I'm going to close out the stream, I do want to say, let you know, on Wednesday, so in 2 nights from now, on X and on YouTube, Free the People is doing a live stream event at 7 p.m. Eastern time. There we are going to be live streaming the director's cut of Off the Grid with Thomas Massie, which is a documentary that Free the People did with Massie in 2018. It kind of became a cult classic, if you will. And we redid, we made a director's cut of it. And so there's going to be a live stream event. There's going to be Massie. So Thomas Massie, Matt Kibbe, and Terry Kibbe are going to do a quick little intro. We're going to watch the film, and there's a live Q&A after the film. And so you can actually go onto Free the People's page right now on X and on YouTube, and you can drop your ask your questions in the comment section now, and we can get those queued up for after the film. Or you can just come in, watch the film, ask questions, and hopefully we can get to your questions as well. But we just want everybody to come out, show up, and hang out. It's going to be a great event, and it's a great film. If you don't know, if you haven't seen it, the first the original, it's worth the watch, and seeing the director's cut is even more so. Even if you've seen the first film, the original film, the director's cut adds on to it, and it's a really, really good, powerful story, and you get to learn a lot about Thomas Massie and his off the grid home, and just how brilliant this guy is. So I do hope that you come out and watch. Star Wars Forge, thank you. Says, hey Sarah, I love you. Let's stop funding Ukraine. Thank you. I love you too. Yes, let's stop funding Ukraine though. That's that's the important part. But yeah, so Thomas Massie, if you're not already subscribed to Free the People, go do that. You can go check out freethepeople.org, Free the People on YouTube and on X. And this can be streamed in both those locations. It's also going to be streamed at Civil, so you can go there as well. Right now, the trailer is available for the director's cut, so you can go check that out now too. But anyways, we're a little bit over, like always. I had some other stuff. If you didn't see, like Jeff Bezos got a little bit based and had like his opinion editor quit at the Washington Post, and it seems like they want to go more towards liberty. So let's see if we have if this holds true, and he actually has had a change of heart. Like that was the one other thing that I was going to talk about, but go check out this post that he put out there. Other than that, if you made it this far into the show, make sure you click that like and subscribe button. Follow me across all social media platforms, and I will see you next time.